What happens when a lighthearted morning interview suddenly turns into an uncomfortable, unscripted debate no one in the studio expected? Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. Whoopi smiles as the camera widens. We're back, and we're here with the incredibly talented Emma Stone. More applause as Emma waves, slightly bashful. Thank you for having me. Joy leans forward. You've been everywhere lately. New film, new project, new interviews every day. Are you exhausted yet? Emma laughs. I'm getting there. I love talking about the work, but I also really love going home and not talking to anyone. The audience chuckles. Sunny adds, your new role is getting a lot of attention because of the themes it tackles. Power, responsibility, and how public figures use their voices. Emma nods. Yeah, that was actually what drew me to the script. It wasn't just entertainment. It asked questions. Alyssa tilts her head. But some people say actors asking questions in the political or social space can feel performative. Like, why should we listen to celebrities about serious issues? There's a brief, subtle shift in the room. Emma keeps her smile, but it tightens just a little. I don't think anyone should listen to someone just because they're famous. But people with a platform can choose to use it or ignore it. I'd rather try to use it thoughtfully. Alyssa nods, but presses. Right, but when that platform reaches millions, doesn't it risk oversimplifying complicated topics? Joy jumps in lightly. You mean like we do every day? The audience laughs, easing the tension for a second. Emma responds carefully. I think the risk exists for anyone speaking publicly, whether they're an actor, a politician, or a talk show host. The solution isn't silence, it's responsibility. Alyssa leans forward again. But responsibility would also mean acknowledging when you're outside your expertise. Emma meets her gaze. Of course. I'm not a policy expert. I'm not pretending to be. I'm talking about values, experiences, and empathy. Sunny nods approvingly. That's an important distinction. Alyssa doesn't quite back off. But viewers might not hear that distinction. They hear a strong opinion from someone they admire, and that can influence real-world decisions. Whoopi lifts a hand. Well, that's also true when people admire politicians, commentators, and even us sitting at this table. The audience murmurs in agreement. Emma adds, still calm. Influence is everywhere. I think the better question is whether we encourage people to think for themselves, not who they hear first. There's a small burst of applause. Alyssa smiles politely but counters. I agree with encouraging independent thought. I just worry that celebrity culture can drown out quieter, more informed voices. Emma pauses before answering. I get that concern. But I also think it's possible to amplify those informed voices instead of replacing them. Joy snaps her fingers. That's a good point. Sunny turns to Alyssa. Isn't that partly on the audience too? To seek multiple perspectives. Alyssa nods. Yes, but media environments shape what people even get exposed to. Emma responds, then maybe the responsibility is shared. On platforms, on audiences, and on anyone speaking. Including me. The audience applauds again, softer but supportive. Whoopi tries to keep the mood buoyant. This is getting deep for a Tuesday morning. Laughter breaks out, but the undercurrent of tension stays. Alyssa looks back at Emma. Can I ask something more direct? Emma nods. Sure. Do you ever worry that speaking out could alienate part of your audience? Emma takes a breath. Yes, all the time. But staying completely silent to avoid discomfort doesn't feel honest to me either. Sunny says quietly, that's a tough balance. Emma continues, I'm not trying to tell anyone what to think. I'm sharing what I think and hoping that invites conversation, not obedience. Alyssa responds quickly, but some fans treat it like guidance. Emma's voice firms slightly. Then I'd rather remind them I'm human, not a guidebook. There's a noticeable ooh from a few people in the audience. Joy grins. Put that on a t-shirt. Whoopi chuckles, then looks between them. I think what we're circling is influence versus authority. Alyssa nods. Exactly. Emma agrees, yes. I have influence. I don't have authority. And I don't want it. A brief silence follows, not awkward but charged. Sunny turns to Emma. Have you ever held back from saying something because of backlash? Emma hesitates. Yes. And sometimes I regret holding back more than I would regret speaking. Alyssa raises an eyebrow. Even if it costs you work? Emma looks straight ahead. If saying something respectfully costs me work, that tells me something about that work. The audience reacts with a mix of applause and surprised murmurs. Joy looks impressed. That's a line. Alyssa responds, measured but firm. Some people would say that's a position of privilege, being able to take that risk. Emma nods slowly. It is, and I try to be aware of that. But privilege can be used to stay comfortable, or to take risks others can't afford to take. That lands heavily. A few claps ripple through the crowd. Whoopi leans back. Now we're really in it. Alyssa folds her hands. I respect that answer. I just think sometimes the loudest voices aren't always the most helpful. Emma replies, just as steady. Then maybe the solution is to make more room at the table, not ask some people to leave it. The audience applauds louder this time. For a second, none of the hosts speak. The air feels thicker, like everyone's aware this has moved beyond promo talk into something raw and unscripted. Whoopi finally smiles. All right, we're going to take a quick break before this turns into a 3-hour special. Laughter breaks the tension, but the exchange lingers in the room as the camera pulls back and the applause continues. Applause fades as the show returns from break. Whoopi adjusts her cards and looks toward Emma. All right, we're back. And for anyone just joining us, we were having a pretty honest conversation before the break. Joy smiles. Honest is a nice word for it. Emma lets out a small, breathy laugh. I promise I didn't come here to start a debate. Alyssa responds quickly, but you didn't run from one either. The audience gives a soft, reactive murmur. Emma nods. I think running from conversations is usually how misunderstandings grow. Sunny leans in. You said something right before the break about making more room at the table instead of asking people to leave it. I want to stay there for a second. Emma shifts slightly forward in her seat. I just mean that disagreement doesn't have to mean exclusion. You can strongly disagree with someone and still believe they deserve a voice. Alyssa responds, measured. I agree with that principle. But in practice, a lot of public discourse doesn't feel that generous right now. Emma tilts her head. Do you think that's because people are speaking, or because they stop listening once someone speaks? Alyssa considers it. Probably the second. But sometimes the way a message is delivered shuts down listening before it even begins. Joy gestures between them. Tone matters. Emma nods. Absolutely. I've gotten it wrong before. I've said things emotionally that I later wished I'd phrased differently. There's a slight shift in the audience, a sense of appreciation for the admission. Alyssa follows up. Do you think public figures get enough space to correct themselves? Or are they judged forever on the first version of what they said? Emma smiles wryly. It depends on the day and the headline. Light laughter from the crowd. She continues, more serious. I do think we need more room for people to evolve. Otherwise, everyone becomes afraid to say anything at all. Sunny snaps her fingers softly. That fear is real. Alyssa nods. But accountability is also real. Emma meets her eyes. They're not opposites. A beat of silence lands. Emma goes on. You can hold someone accountable and still allow them to grow. In fact, that's the whole point of accountability. The audience applauds, not loudly but firmly. Whoopi looks impressed. That's an important distinction. Alyssa crosses her hands thoughtfully. So where's the line between growth and excuse-making? Emma answers without hesitation. Whether the person is actually changing their behavior, not just their wording. Joy lets out a quick hum. Alyssa pushes a little further. But from the outside, people can't always see behavior change. They just see statements. Emma acknowledges it. That's true. And that's why trust takes time. You don't get instant forgiveness just because you said, I'm learning. Sunny adds, consistency over time. Emma nods. Exactly. Repeated actions, not one apology tour. A few audience members clap again. Alyssa leans back slightly, but her tone stays focused. I think where some viewers struggle is feeling like certain voices get endless chances while others get written off immediately. Emma pauses, choosing her words carefully. That imbalance is real. And I don't have a perfect answer for fixing it. But I do think the solution isn't giving fewer people grace. It's giving more people grace. The audience reacts with a soft wave of approval. Joy smiles. That sounds nice in theory. Emma looks at her. It's hard in practice, especially when emotions are high. Whoopi jumps in. Let me ask this. Do you think actors and entertainers should ever just say, this isn't my lane, and sit something out? Emma considers it. Yes. Sometimes the most responsible thing is to step back and make space. Not every moment needs my voice in it. Alyssa nods, almost relieved to hear that. I appreciate that answer. Emma continues. But I also don't think we should create strict lanes where only certain professions are allowed to care about certain issues. Sunny smiles. Caring isn't exclusive. Emma adds, if something affects people's lives, everyone has a stake in the conversation. The difference is how you participate. Alyssa responds, so for you it's less about whether to speak, more about how. Exactly, Emma says. Speak with humility. Be open to being wrong. And be willing to listen as much as you talk. There's a brief, quiet moment where no one interrupts. Then Joy breaks it with a grin. Well, that rules out half the internet. Big laughter from the audience. Emma laughs too, some of the tension easing. Probably more than half. But Alyssa brings it back. Let me challenge one more piece of this. When you say be open to being wrong, are you comfortable being challenged in real time, like this? Emma turns to her fully. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's healthy. If I can't defend or rethink my view in conversation, then maybe I haven't thought about it enough yet. A noticeable ooh ripples through the crowd again. Sunny nods approvingly. That's brave. Emma shakes her head. It shouldn't be brave. It should be normal. Alyssa holds her gaze a second longer, then gives a small, respectful nod. Fair enough. The audience applauds louder now, sensing the weight of the exchange. Whoopi looks toward the camera as the noise settles. All right, we're going to keep this going, because clearly we're not done yet. The camera pulls back slightly as the applause continues, the conversation still hanging in the air, unresolved but undeniably real. Applause fades as the camera returns from a brief commercial break. Whoopi smiles at the audience. Welcome back. For anyone just tuning in, Emma Stone is here. And let's just say the conversation got more interesting than we expected. Joy laughs softly. Interesting is one word for it. Thought-provoking might be another. Emma gives a small nod, hands folded on her lap. I'll take thought-provoking. Alyssa leans forward slightly, voice calm but deliberate. Before the break, we were talking about being open to challenge. I want to push a little further. How do you handle criticism when it's not constructive, when it feels personal? Emma exhales slowly. That's hard, especially online, where criticism is rarely about nuance. You can't respond to every attack, and sometimes silence is safer, but it doesn't always feel fair. Sunny chimes in. Silence can be seen as agreement or weakness. Emma nods. Exactly. And that's the dilemma. Do I engage and risk misinterpretation, or step back and let someone else shape the narrative? Joy tilts her head. How do you decide? Emma thinks for a moment. I ask myself, is there a conversation that can actually happen here? Or is it just shouting into the void? If it's shouting, I let it go. If it's real dialogue, I try to engage. Alyssa crosses her arms. But isn't there also a risk that stepping back can be seen as ignoring responsibility? Emma meets her gaze. Yes, that's why I try to balance it. Engage where it matters. Step back where it doesn't. And always try to redirect attention to the people actually affected or experts in the field. The audience murmurs in appreciation. A few nods and soft claps ripple through the studio. Whoopi leans in. That's actually really responsible. I think some people don't understand that balance. Emma smiles. It's not perfect. I get things wrong sometimes. But the goal is to minimize harm while still participating honestly. Sunny gestures toward Alyssa. What about you? You've been asking a lot of tough questions here. Do you feel satisfied with this discussion so far? Alyssa responds, measured but firm. I think it's a start. I still worry about the impact of celebrity voices dominating certain topics. But I do see the thought and care you're putting in, Emma. That counts for something. Emma nods. Thank you. That's all anyone can hope for, really. Honest engagement. Joy laughs lightly. It's rare to hear celebrities say that on live TV. The audience chuckles softly. Alyssa leans forward again. Let's get real about risk. Speaking out publicly on topics you aren't an expert in can have consequences: career, reputation, personal life. Does that ever stop you? Emma exhales, her smile tightening slightly. Of course it does. Fear is always there. But fear can't be the only guide. You have to weigh it against what you believe is right to say or do. Sunny nods. So it's a calculated risk. Emma agrees. Yes, and part of that calculation is listening. Who could be hurt? Who could benefit? And what am I actually adding to the conversation? Alyssa presses further, tone a bit sharper now. And what if the conversation goes sideways? If the public misinterprets your intentions? Emma looks down briefly, then meets her gaze. Then I try to clarify, but I don't obsess over controlling perception. I can't. I can only take responsibility for my words and actions, not the interpretations of millions. Joy leans back in her chair. That's a lot of pressure to carry. Emma nods. It is. And I try to remember I'm just one person. One person's effort won't fix everything, but it can make a small difference. Alyssa softens slightly. I can respect that. I guess my challenge is staying aware of how the ripple effects can play out, because sometimes they go further than expected. Emma smiles faintly. And that's why conversations like this matter. Talking it through publicly, with people willing to question you, is part of understanding those ripple effects. Whoopi looks toward the audience. See, this is why live TV is worth it. Real talk, real perspectives, even if it gets a little tense. Emma continues. I don't want to avoid tension. I want to learn from it. Joy adds, and the audience learns too, right? Emma nods. Exactly. That's why engagement matters more than agreement. Alyssa finally leans back, her expression softer but serious. I still think the risk of misinterpretation is huge, but I appreciate your transparency. It's rare to see someone acknowledge the complexity in public discussion instead of just giving sound bites. Emma smiles. I try, and I think it's important to show that these issues aren't black and white. Life isn't black and white. Opinions aren't black and white. Sunny gestures with her hand. So much of what we talk about here every day could use that nuance. Emma laughs lightly. Exactly. And yes, even when it gets uncomfortable. Joy leans forward, smiling. Uncomfortable is an understatement sometimes. Whoopi laughs. Well, we've hit that mark today, haven't we? The audience chuckles, a few claps breaking out. Emma leans slightly toward Alyssa. I respect the challenge you're bringing. It keeps me on my toes. Alyssa nods. Likewise. And I think viewers need to see that discussion can happen without it turning into a circus. Emma smiles. Agreed. The energy in the room eases slightly, though the tension from earlier lingers just under the surface, like a conversation that's alive, unresolved, but thoughtful. Whoopi looks at the camera, gesturing to the panel. All right, folks, we're going to continue this after the next break. Stick around. This conversation is far from over. The camera slowly pulls back as soft applause continues, capturing the hosts and guests mid-conversation. The room buzzing with that live, unscripted energy that makes talk shows unpredictable and real. Applause fades as the camera returns from the final commercial break. Whoopi smiles at the audience. Welcome back. We're finishing up our conversation with Emma Stone, and if you've been with us this whole time, you know things have been intense. Joy laughs softly. Intense is putting it mildly, but in a good way. Emma nods politely. I hope it's been productive, not just intense. Alyssa leans forward slightly, voice measured. I think it has. I still have my concerns about the influence of celebrity voices, but I appreciate the honesty and thoughtfulness you've brought to this conversation. Emma meets her gaze. Thank you. That's important to me, that the conversation feels honest, not performative. Sunny adds, and I think that's what the audience notices too. People can tell when someone is actually engaging versus just giving a rehearsed answer. Whoopi looks toward Emma. So, after all of this discussion, what's your takeaway from being on a show like this? Emma exhales. I think my takeaway is that dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable, is necessary, and that listening is as important as speaking. Joy nods. That's a good lesson for everyone watching. Alyssa adds, and also a reminder that responsibility comes in many forms. Speaking carefully, listening actively, and knowing when to step back. Emma smiles. Exactly. And that's a balance I'm still trying to learn every day. The audience applauds again, warmer this time, a sense of closure settling over the room. Whoopi leans back. I think that's the thing about live TV. You can't predict every reaction, every twist, but sometimes you end up learning something new in the process. Emma nods. And I hope viewers take that away too. Not just what I said, but the idea that meaningful conversation takes patience, effort, and humility. Sunny gestures toward the audience. And that's exactly why watching discussions like this can be valuable, seeing people work through disagreement in real time. Joy smiles. It's a reminder that no conversation is perfect, and no person has all the answers. Alyssa leans forward one last time. And yet we keep talking because it matters, and because even difficult conversations can spark understanding. Emma agrees. That's the hope. Whoopi looks toward the camera. All right, folks, that wraps up our conversation today. This was real, raw, and unscripted. Emma, Thank you for being here and sharing your perspective. Emma smiles warmly. Thank you for having me. The audience applauds as the hosts exchange quick smiles. The tension from earlier has shifted to mutual respect, the kind of conversation that lingers in viewers' minds long after the show ends. After the taping, social media lights up. Clips of Emma and Alyssa exchanging thoughtful but challenging questions trend immediately. Viewers praise Emma's honesty and calm under pressure, while others debate Alyssa's insistence on accountability and caution. Memes surface highlighting some of the sharper lines, and opinion threads explode across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Fans of Emma express admiration for her humility, while critics of celebrity influence raise questions about her role in public discourse. The conversation continues online for days, sparking articles and talk show segments analyzing the moment. Backstage, the hosts debrief with production staff. They acknowledge that the episode didn't just entertain. It provoked thought, challenged assumptions, and showed viewers that disagreement can be constructive when handled respectfully. Emma leaves the studio reflecting on the exchange, thinking about the responsibility that comes with a platform, the nuances of influence, and the power of real dialogue. Alyssa considers how her questions may have sparked a more honest reflection than a simple soundbite could. And the audience, both in the studio and online, continues to discuss, debate, and dissect every moment. Whoopi looks into the camera for the final time. And that's what it's all about: real conversations, real conflict, and real growth. We hope it made you think. Joy adds. And remember, no conversation ends just because the cameras stop rolling. Sunny smiles. Keep questioning, keep listening, and keep talking. Emma waves at the camera. Thank you again for having me. Whoopi turns to the audience with a final note. Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories. The camera pulls back slowly as the audience gives a final round of applause, the hosts smile, and the screen fades out. The episode ends with the lingering feeling of a conversation that was raw, real, and unforgettable.